setting new standards in podcast excellence. You have joined the WBT, fully focused on business and taxes. Here is your host, Michael Lodge.
And welcome to the WBT. This is Mike Lodge. I tell you, lordy. What did we see yesterday in the impeachment hearing? Day 4 of the impeachment hearing? Let's talk about it when I come back.
This is brought to you by Lodge & Co., a business and tax advisory firm where your success is our goal. Call us today toll-free at 888-681-1518 or visit us at www.lodge-co.com and learn more about what we can do for you. Lodge & Co., your source for sound business and tax services.
My goodness, yesterday was a fiasco. I mean, it was really the most stupidity upon stupidity of what I heard and what I saw. 30 minutes into the Inquisition, we want to call it that, of Sondland, Ambassador Sondland, who is the ambassador to the European Union. He came out with the words that he saw pro quo, whatever it is, PPQ, quid pro quo. So he came out and he said he saw that, but he was so lame in his description of it. But the Democrats jumped on it. I mean, they were so excited because now they had their place in line to impeach the president. They thought they had something. So they all ran out to the press that were out in the hallways, and they began talking to these people. And I said, "Oh, we've got it. We now have the evidence that President Trump did this, and he did that, and he did this illegal act, and he did that illegal act." Then they took all of the words that they learned in law school and tried to apply them somehow. Bribery, and all kinds of other law book words. The problem is that when they went back in and they started cross-examination, Sondland said, "No, the president never told me about any type of preconditions. He never instructed me on any preconditions. There were no preconditions. The president said he wants no quid pro quo. He wants the new president of Ukraine to do what's right. No conditions, no ties, no nothing." So the whole morning, the first 30 minutes of the hearing by the Democrats was a total failure because under cross-examination, and I saw this, I'm telling you, I saw this, I was watching Fox News on Twitter, and Britt Baer came out and said, "Oh, we've got this damning stuff, it's damning, it's mind-blowing, it's terrible." But then in the cross-examination, everything was tossed out. Everything that the Democrats had argued for was completely nonsense. Null and void, dead on arrival. But they were so happy after the first 30 minutes that they ran out because now they thought they had something. A good attorney listens to all the evidence. Listens to all the cross-examination, looks at all the documentation, instead of going out to the press and coming up with all of these legal mumbo-jumbo words that they learned in law school, or they picked up a Black's Law Dictionary and looked up the word, hoping it will stick to the president. How stupid can anybody be? So we had yesterday a full day of testimony. Time and time again, where Sondland said there were no preconditions. There was no quid pro quo. Stupidity. And we've known this from the very beginning in 2016, where the candidates came in and they had won their office and they said, we are going to impeach the president. Before he had even served one day as president, the Democrats had already said that they were going to impeach this president. We were warned in advance. They will step and they will pounce upon the Constitution and the constitutional rights of the president. Or, as a matter of fact, the constitutional rights of any American. We have to watch very carefully and be very concerned about Congressman Swalwell of California. This guy is so corrupt in his words, and he is so willing to point the blame, and he is so willing to say all of these legal words, but he is wrong every single time. Every time he talks, he's wrong every single time because he's disproven by cross-examination. Now, the Democrats have already decided that they want to impeach this president. Now, once again, I ask each and every single one of you, I've asked this of you of every single morning that I've talked about this impeachment. I want you to take your Democrat hat off. I want to you take off your Republican hat, and I want you to look at this very well with your eyes open and your ears open on how the Constitution is being stomped on. Constitutional rights have been thrown out. Now, I want you to remember that all of this from this committee that Adam Schiff is on, this now goes to another committee, and that's the Justice Committee. Judicial Committee. Sorry. There's no justice. But it has to go over to the Judicial Committee, where it will then be voted to go out onto the floor for a vote for impeachment. Now, if the Judicial Committee votes this through without the bearing and the focus on the constitutionality of everything that has happened and the unconstitutionality of hearsay and people thinking and people hearing from third people and presuming and all these words that has nothing to do with evidence, and the fact that the president has not had the opportunity to cross-examine any of these witnesses, none of them. His attorneys cannot even be present in the congressional chambers while these questions are being asked. We have a constitutional problem. If the Democrats vote this impeachment through in the Judicial Committee, then this Judicial Committee, who is supposed to uphold the Constitution 100%, they should put the Constitution before any political agenda. If they vote for impeachment in the Judicial Committee based upon what we've seen and heard, and that all of the testimonies have been debunked through cross-examination, then we have a problem and our Constitution is at risk. If the Democrats are willing to put the Constitution at risk, then what is going to happen in the future to you and me? Is our constitutional rights going to be overstepped in the court of law? Because they saw it done in Congress, so what will stop them from trying to do it in the court of law? And as you know, there's some very politically corrupt judges out there on the federal benches and on the state benches. Corrupt meaning that they don't uphold the Constitution. Instead, they base their opinions on the political fever at that moment. And that's a dangerous judge to have. So we have to watch this. You and I, as Americans, have to watch this very closely. If our constitutional rights are overlooked and the president's constitutional rights are overlooked, then this impeachment has nothing to do with the laws of this land. Instead, it has to do with politics only. And politics is not supposed to tread upon the Constitution. Now, you guys are saying, why does he keep talking about the Constitution? Because the Constitution is the basis of every single law that is formed in this nation. I tell this every single morning that I talk about impeachment. And if those laws are going to be tread upon, they are going to be stomped on, they are going to be ignored, they are going to be compromised by a Congress who want to push through a political agenda, then our Constitution and the laws of this land is in jeopardy. And they're right at the jeopardy point, right at this very moment. But if any person votes for impeachment based upon what we've heard and seen, where the evidence that the Democrats are trying to portray have been demolished with every single cross-examination, they do not have any type of illegal activity that the president is accused of doing. They have none. Oh, they can say all these words. They can say bribery. They can conflict, and they can say all these other legalistic words, but they can't prove it. And in 4 days of them having these hearings, nothing has been proven except that there was no conditions. There was no quid pro quo. Sad. And then we have that Congressman Solwell, who goes out there and blabbers like an idiot. The other issue that all of you should be looking at is not just on the Constitution, but look at the presentation of the witnesses. The Democrats go into this very emotional state of how well these people served government and how they came to America and how their families were first-generation Americans. And they try to tie this emotional issues, or storyline, I should say, because they're losing on their arguments. So now they have to use an emotional aspect that has nothing to do with legal arguments. Has nothing. But you see it every single day. But for a congressman, Adam Schiff, to go out to the media 30 minutes into the hearing and say, oh, we've got the president of all of his illegal activities, but then when he walks back into the committee room and under cross-examination of these witnesses, every point that they were hoping for to be made to impeach this president was beaten down, destroyed through cross-examination. But yet we have these people out there claiming guilt on everything. Guilty, 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 guilty. But yet they have presented no evidence, no witness that has even come even close to saying that there was a problem. In fact, they all said, no, there's been no quid pro quo. There's never been, there's no preconditions. There's no ties. All that the president did was ask, we need to, if you want our money, our taxpayer money, you have got to prove to us that you are cracking down on corruption in your nation. And by the way, we have some Americans involved in that corruption, and we need for that to be looked at also. There's nothing wrong with that. Doesn't even matter that Biden is a presidential candidate. These issues came up under the Obama administration, and the Obama administration knew that there was a conflict of interest. The people at the State Department knew there was a conflict of there was a conflict. And yet they did nothing. They said nothing. It was okay for one side to do it. In fact, Biden was even blatant about it, of how he bragged about it on television, about getting rid of this prosecutor if he didn't stop the investigation on his son and on that oil company, Barista. I tell you, it's a tangled web these Democrats are weaving. Once you try to deceive, it goes bad for you. Once you start to attack the Constitution of the United States, we have a problem. And I would even go as far as saying, is this not treasonous to try to dismantle the Constitution based on politics? These Congress people are not upholding their oath to defend the Constitution of the United States. Instead, they're attacking it. They're attacking the foundation of our country through our Constitution that gives us legal rights to protect us. And yet they attack it. We have to be very careful about this. So day 4, disaster. Let's see what day 5 brings. But I'm expecting more of the same. Remember, take your hats off. You're no longer a Democrat. You're no longer a Republican. You're an American listening to testimony. And you have to decide, based upon the questions, have they proven any type of wrongdoing? Any type of law? And do they have the evidence for it? So far, even first-hand evidence, the guy, Sondland, who spoke to the president all the time, could not justify any quid pro quo, any type of conflict of interest, or any kind of preconditions to any agreements. Hasn't been proven. Nothing's been proven. All we hear is hearsay evidence. What I thought would happen, my opinion is, sorry, that's not evidence. No evidence whatsoever. Anyway, send me a text at 818-252-5682 if you have any comments or questions. I'll be more than happy to respond back to you. Everybody go out. Have a great day. Do something good for somebody. Remember, it's the Thanksgiving season. Let's give thanks. Let's show gratitude. And let's give. Talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to the WBT with Michael Lodge. Join us again tomorrow as we explore more about business and taxes. Follow us on iHeartRadio and go to our podcast website at www.wbtpod.com and listen to all of our podcasts and read our blogs.
This podcast has been produced by Michael Lodge, fully focused on content.